What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all things MICO. So his best builds, his best counters, his best matchups, his best game modes, and then of course giving you guys a ranking on how strong I think he'll be. So he's going to be the new brawler which will be released in Brawl Stars in a few days as announced in the Brawl Talk and also at the World Finals as well. So much hype with this brawler, and not only might he break the game with his mechanics, he's just definitely going to break the game in terms of the servers. Everyone's going to try and log on and get this brawler. It's going to be the MICO apocalypse, just like the Edgar one a few years ago as well. But let's dive into him and his base stats then. So MICO deals 2,180 damage. I'd say that's a considerable amount of damage, a little bit more than your average brawler, but at the same time he only has 6,000 HP. This is similar to brawlers like Surge. So Surge is considered, I would say, somewhat of more so squishier brawler. So he's not really super squishy like Spike, for example, but he definitely isn't near like the medium health pool either. So for like an assassin, that is pretty difficult to really get in and get out and get kills. In terms of his reload speed, it is very slow, so it's literally the same as Mortis. So in terms of how you want to play MICO, that's definitely going to influence things, because as Mortis, you rarely want to use your attack for kind of getting around the map, right? The same goes with MICO, because you won't actually have any attacks to use on attacking players if you use it for mobility. So you kind of got to balance things out there with MICO. In terms of his movement speed, he's very fast, just like Crow. So he's going to be able to go around the map, of course, super fast. You're able to latch onto brawlers really quick with that movement speed. He has similar range to Cordelius, and you can see the comparison with Edgar as well. The jump is nowhere near as big, and also just a landing spot as well. So you've got to be kind of accurate with his jumps. In terms of his normal attack as well, just not only can it, of course, it deal damage, but he can just dodge everything. He can dodge supers, gadgets, all of that stuff. You can literally dodge with a click of the button. So not only is it going to be, of course, good offensively, it's going to be good defensively as well. And will brawlers actually be able to hit MICO? That is the question. He's got a very OP mechanic in just his main attack itself. So now diving it into his super. So when MICO uses his super, he will dive into the air for 6 seconds, and you will see this landing spot where you and also the enemies can see this, and eventually it will get bigger and bigger until he finally lands on that spot and deals 2,380 damage. So that isn't really a lot of damage upon landing. That's like the same as one squeak shot, or just a little bit more than his main attack. So it's not going to just absolutely team wipe and decimate everything, but it's just going to be good for damage, especially finishing off certain opponents. And it's just going to be good because you're going to be invulnerable in that super. So his super takes 5 hits to charge, similar to Nita's bear. The super charge from the super, though, is only 4 hits. So for example, if you actually hit all of the enemies with your super, all you need to do is then hit one more main attack, and then you cycle another one. So that is pretty useful. In terms of his super as well, he's completely invulnerable, where he actually removes any adverse effects when he uses super. So it should be removing the crow poison, any slows, and whatever else. I think it's a little bit bugged in the dev build, but in the real build this should be fixed. In terms of how good his super is as well, it's kind of hard to tell because you don't actually have any real players to face off against. Like bots movements a lot different. Will you be able to consistently hit the super onto opponents? I think you should, but then again, there are some mobility brawlers that should be able to escape this super for sure. In terms of his super as well, when you actually go up into the air, you will fully reload and actually start healing whilst in the air, which is actually super strong. I think that's one of the best things about him, because you could use all of your ammo and then use your super, and then of course by the time you landed, you've got all of your ammo back as well as the star power. But we'll dive into that pretty soon. So I think it can be very good for getting out of spawn traps. You know, for example, I think a lot of maps where you're in a dirty spawn trap and there's no way getting out, well, you can just MICO super up the map, especially like Ring of Fire, and just go straight onto the zone. So it's gonna be very good for control and very good for pushing the enemies back. I think this super is actually pretty underrated by the majority. Moving on to his build overall, then gonna give you guys a run through of all of the gadgets and star powers, and then go through what I think is going to be the best. So in terms of the first gadget, it's called a Clipping Scream. It deals 545 damage at max range and slows down the enemies for 2 seconds. So you can see Bounded Radius is very comparable, I would say, to Vengeful Spirits with Gene. It's got an insane radius, and the closer you are to the opponent, the more damage you can deal. Up close at point blank range, it can deal 1,635. It's not a lot of damage, but you think MICO's got a really slow reload speed. He struggles in DPS, so this can actually make up for some lack of DPS in a 1v1 fight. You know, most of the time it's probably going to be used, I would say, offensively. You'll say you're about to close down an opponent, you can use this gadget, slow them for 2 seconds, and that gives you more time to close down the gap and take them down. But you can also use it defensively. You can slow them and run away. So I think this gadget is actually pretty strong. Now jumping into his second gadget, it is called Presto. So with MICO's next jump, it actually has a 34% longer range. So I think this gadget is actually pretty useful, because when you compare his jump again to Edgar, his range is very, very lackluster. So this makes up for it. And specifically, I don't know, there's probably a lot of scenarios you could use this gadget in, but in particular, I just think it's good for latching onto his weaker, the weaker brawlers. So again, like those throwers, you can use this gadget just to latch onto them much quicker, get the kills quicker, and especially if they're behind, I don't know, like a big block of walls, this gadget could definitely help. But I'm interested to try it out, like which gadget's going to be better. Let me know what you think is better in the comment section. And on to star powers, starting off with the first one called Monkey Business. So every 5 seconds, MICO steals an ammo from the enemy after hitting them. So I believe this will remove an ammo from the enemy and then give you an ammo in return. So essentially, you're getting 4 pieces of ammo instead of 3. And the main reason why I think this can be so good is because, of course, MICO has a very slow reload speed, but not only that, it actually pairs incredibly well with his super. So again, for example, say if you've probably like used 3 or 4 attacks in a row and that kind of bar from the star power is depleted, you can then use your super, and then by the time you land, you've got all of your ammo back and the star power is fully replenished. So again, you can just get so much DPS and so much cycling with his star power. I just think overall this star power will be way better than the other one, just because it gives you that extra piece of ammo. Like, it's just self-explanatory. He has such a slow reload speed, so you definitely need this for the DPS or just getting around the map, and mobility is a very strong star power. So now moving on to his second star power called Record Smash. It doubles the damage against non-brawlers. So I'm not too sure how to feel against this one. Like, it's a little bit of a different one. We've not really seen anything like this in Brawl just yet, I believe. So it's going to be, of course, good against pets, turrets, the new Brawler's super, because that is technically a non-brawler, I think. And it's also going to be good in heist, but his reload speed is super slow. So again, I'm not too sure how to feel about this, because I don't think you'll be like, for example, jumping onto a Nita Bear, because you have very little reload speed. I guess maybe with a couple of jumps you can take it down, but it's just not advised jumping into Bruce, right? So for me, I think the star power is pretty useless unless I've missed something here. I think every single time you want to be using a Monkey Business. In terms of his best build, then, before I've even tried him out, of course, I'll update this when I do try him out when he's live. But for me, I think Clipping Scream might be the better gadget overall. I don't know. Both of these gadgets are pretty useful. None of them are like really strong, but definitely have his uses. Probably Presto might be a little bit better just to get onto your matchup quicker. So probably Presto, I would say, for now. And in terms of star powers, 100%, no debate about this. Monkey Business is going to be your better one for sure. Getting that extra piece of ammo is so good, and I'm not really sure what you're going to do with Record Smash, in my opinion. In terms of gears, then, I think it's pretty obvious for an assassin, especially for a squishier one like MICO. You definitely need the shield gear. That's really going to help you out. Pretty much put the shield gear on every assassin, like Mortis, for example. And then, of course, the damage gear as well. You don't really have the biggest amount of damage, to be honest, so you definitely will need that, and that's going to be your best build. Now we're going to be diving into his best matchups and also the brawlers that counter MICO, because again, quite easily this brawler could break the game. A brand new mechanic to the game is pretty scary. So in terms of his good matchups, I think it's pretty obvious to me. So the first one that everyone has been crying out about is definitely going to be the throwers. The throwers are going to be the brawlers he's going to feast on. He literally jumps over a wall and destroys them. You just think of Edgar, but even easier, because you can just literally, of a click of a button, jump over straight away. You know, throwers like Sprout, Dynamite, Barley are just not going to have a chance against MICO, unfortunately. I think as well, squishier brawlers like Ruffs are going to have a tough matchup against MICO, because again, he can just jump over their attacks, and with a couple of like 2-3 jumps, he can just delete them. So any squishy brawler, MICO's gonna feast on. And then in terms of other brawlers, you know, again, you got to think of similar brawlers around like Mortis and Edgar. What are their good matchups? It's going to be low DPS brawlers. So you think of any brawler that isn't able to kill an assassin fast. So that's going to be brawlers like Amber, Gus, where they haven't got that burst up front. You know, MICO's going to feast on those brawlers in a 1v1. And then in terms of other good matchups, I think pretty much just everyone. Like, MICO seems super strong. Moving on to the brawlers that counter MICO the hardest. So I think by far tanks have to be his hardest matchup. I think, of course, there are going to be ways to beat tanks, right? It's not going to be an unwinnable matchup for MICO every single time. But I think it's going to be the riskier of the matchups because you just have a super slow reload speed. If you don't get the right combination with your super, with your attack and star power, like, you can be in an awkward situation. There's been a few times just against bots where, I don't know, I've messed up a combination and then it takes forever for the next ammo to appear. So you're trying to escape, but by that time, that tank has just closed you down and took you down pretty quickly. So I think tanks are going to be super, super hard to take down because he has very little DPS. He has no way of, like, knocking them back. He does have some escape mechanics, of course, but overall, super squishy, should be easy for tanks to take him down. In terms of other brawlers that could, like, soft counter him, just any brawlers with mobility should have a good matchup against him. So the likes of Mortis, Stu, Janet super, like any brawler that has some kind of like knockback, jump, you know, even like Brock Gadget, for example, should be able to soft counter him in some ways. So that is just one way to kind of think about those interactions. And then lastly, just any brawler with any quick burst damage. So brawlers like Surge. So if you jump on a Surge, it's not really going to do best for you because he can quickly tap a few shots or even jump with his super and knock you back. So just a few counters to MICO, but I really don't think too much is going to counter him. He seems super strong. We're going through his best game modes, starting off with Gem Grab. So I think Gem Grab is going to be one of his better game modes in my opinion, mainly because he's just going to wreak havoc on the map. Any assassin's good on Gem Grab because they can divert the attention from the mid and also the lane, just waste so much time allowing your gem carrier to pick up gems. But not only that, of course, he's just going to be able to latch onto the gem carrier really easily with his jumps, and also he's got the super that has insane turnaround potential. You think you can pop that super from your spawn near enough and literally near enough go to the enemy side of the map and slam down onto the gem carrier. So I think that alone makes him super strong in Gem Grab, probably like A tier or even S tier in Gem. So the next game mode is Heist, and I think it's going to be one of his worst game modes, mainly because his reload speed is super slow and he doesn't actually do too much damage, right? It takes forever for him to take down the safe, even with his other star power. And especially in this type of meta, it's just more base race than ever. You've seen the recent hypercharges, right? Like a Crow hypercharge deletes the safe by half. Colette, kind of the same as well. It's just going to be Colts, Colette, so all of those hypercharged brawlers running all over him. He won't be able to keep up. So in Brawl, I think it's going to be an S tier brawler, mainly because there's a lot of situations where he's going to be able to break out of a spawn trap. You think in a situation, I don't know, just say you're on any map like Backyard Bowl and they're spawn trapping you. You can just jump over that wall straight away with the respawn bubble as well and get some quick takedowns. So for me, I think MICO is going to be insane on Brawl. So in terms of Hot Zone, I think again it's going to be one of his best game modes because his super pretty much covers the entirety of one Hot Zone. So that's going to be so broken. I couldn't believe it when I was playing on Ring of Fire, for example. I could literally from respawn just pop my super, fly all the way up the map and just slam onto the Hot Zone. So just literally that in itself is going to force people away from the Hot Zone, get you some good pressure. I think it's going to be one of his best game modes. Lastly, we have the two passive game modes in Wipeout and Knockout. I think I can put them in the same category because I don't think he's going to be too strong in these game modes in particular, mainly because he is pretty squishy and snipers tend to thrive. Maybe he could be good late game, especially with his super, especially being invulnerable for 6 seconds. Could be some sneaky strategies with it. I think overall though, he's not going to be the strongest, but then again, it could be a really good counter to some throwers. I'll have to wait and see with this one, but it definitely has potential in this game mode. But I'm going to safe bet and say he's probably going to be like B or C tier. Okay guys, it's going to be it for today's video. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think of the brand new brawler MICO. In terms of me, I think he's going to be an S tier brawler. I don't think it's going to be like insanely broken. That's just my first glance, but it could quite easily be, especially with his mobility. But yeah, I'm more scared of brawlers like Fang and Dynamite with their hypercharges than MICO at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be utter carnage in a few days time, so make sure to subscribe because I'll be giving you guys straight away the meta details on whether it's going to be worth maxing him out, etc, etc. etc. So that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.